How's it going? I'm Dr. J. In this video, I decided to compile a list of 15 tips that will help Samus players of pretty much any level. Some of these are going to be pretty specific, some of them are going to be pretty general, and some of them are going to be kind of obvious, but some of them are going to be pretty out there as well. But anyway, here it is. Number 1. Don't have full charge shot. I really don't feel like I have to explain this again because I made a whole video on it, but the frame data of 100% charge shot is significantly worse than any other charge state and doesn't do that much more damage than 90% charge, and having full charge limits your movement and mix-up options. Anyway, I just had to get that out of the way first, so onto tip number 2. Use all of her options. A lot of people, myself included, fall into the trap of only using options that either you're used to or that you think are the best. Samus is an extremely versatile character with tons of movement, mix-ups, and knockout options. Every single one of her moves has multiple applications, and having access to all of Samus's arsenal, from wave bouncing, B reversing, and turnaround charge shot, to tether cancelling and wave landing, is all pretty much essential to compete against high-level players. So don't just only approach with dash attack or go for an F smash when you want to get a knockout. Instead, understand that all of Samus's options have counterplay, and the more you use a single option, even if that option is currently working, the more opportunities your opponent has to figure out the counterplay. I think it was Mango that once said, and I might not have the exact quote, but don't assume that just because something worked last time that it'll work next time. That's what bad players do. So never get complacent with the tools you currently have at your disposal, and constantly work on getting every possible combo, spacing, and movement mix-ups into muscle memory. Also, a side note about smash attacks, don't just never use them, but do use them sparingly. Samus really doesn't need them to get consistent knockouts, but when your opponent is in the 80 to 100% range, an F smash or up smash can net you a much earlier kill as long as you aren't predictable with it. Number 3. Master your jab. Jab 1 is an incredibly useful move, and it's often neglected by beginner Samus players due to how bad Jab 2 is. Jab 1 is extremely fast, and it does an incredibly good job of creating opportunities for mix-ups, as a get-off-me tool for punishing missed techs with jab lock, and pressuring shielded opponents or cornered opponents. There's actually a very essential trick to using jab, which is jab cancelling. Basically, you can rapidly throw out jab 1s or simply act faster after jab 1 by crouching or shielding in order to interrupt the lead into jab 2. Doing this is really simple in concept. You just press A, immediately buffer crouch by holding down, and as soon as jab 1 ends or when crouch starts, let go of your control stick and press A again. Alternatively, you can just buffer shield or spot dodge if you aren't going for a jab or tilt right after. The timing on jab cancelling can be really tricky at first, especially because it's different when you actually land the jab, so make jab cancelling a regular part of your practice routine. 4. Bombs are your friends. Samus's down B has an incredibly large amount of applications, but if I had to summarize its general purpose into one phrase, it would be to stuff your opponents out of a certain area. Basically, bombs take control of a small space for a short amount of time, and even if they don't hit your opponent, you at least know that if they go into that spot, they will get hit. And you can use that information to make predicting and reading your opponent's moves much easier. Bombs can be an amazing tool once mastered, so make sure that you can place bombs accurately, that you know the hit stun and trajectory of your opponent when it lands by second nature, and of course that you don't accidentally bomb jump when you don't mean to. On a similar note, tip 5 is to make Zair muscle memory. Zair may not do a lot of damage by itself, but it's absolutely essential to master if you want to play a Samus at a high level. So many matchups almost revolve around Zair, and knowing the perfect timing to get the full Zair immediately landing on the ground, along with being able to actually follow up Zair with dash attack, jab, grab, or F tilt depending on DI positioning and percent. Frankly, if you haven't already, it should be a major priority for you to get Zair into your muscle memory, which you can easily do by going to training mode, making the CPU jump in place, and hitting them with Zair over and over again until you can consistently hit small characters from any distance at any height from the ground. Number 6. Traction doesn't exist. As the fourth most slippery character on the ground, Samus and Dark Samus move back slightly more when shielding attacks, and doing a turnaround while running without foxtrotting is pretty darn slow. But you can abuse the low traction with Sliding Bear, which is just an animation cancel that can ever so slightly mix up your movement, Or more commonly, you can use your low traction with sliding F tilts, F smashes, pivot grabs, and easier RARs. Also, having low traction allows for some tricky ground techs where you can kind of slide off platforms to get away, similar to Melee Luigi if you know what that's like. Also, it makes ledge canceling much easier. Number 7 is platform movement. Platform movement is absolutely key for playing Samus well, so make it an everyday habit to just mess around with wave landing and fast falling onto platforms. Doing B reverse, turnaround, or wave bounce charge shot onto and off of platforms, timing your bombs to either land on or below platforms, using platforms to extend up air strings, doing fast fall neutral air dodges, and just generally being extremely comfortable on all of the legal stages, especially Battlefield and Pokemon Stadium. Number 8 is always be ready to react. There's only so much you can do to actually train your reaction time, but frankly the best way to improve your reactions is just by anticipating future situations and staying safe. What I mean by this is that using quick moves in neutral, like jab and F tilt, allow you to react afterwards if your attack whiffs, whereas if you whiff grab, no matter how fast you are, your opponent can easily punish the end lag. Basically just make sure that your hands, your brain, and your actual character are all ready to react. Number 9 is pattern recognition and elimination. Being able to recognize patterns is crucial for top level Samus play, both in recognizing your opponent's patterns and your own. No matter how random you think you're being, everyone has a natural tendency to use certain moves with certain frequencies and in certain orders. Catching onto your opponent's habits is obviously essential for making reads, but making sure that you're aware of your own habits and being able to change or eliminate any patterns you're showing will make it much more difficult for opponents to make reads or get in. On the same note, number 10 is use your opponent's expectations against them. Most people have preconceived notions about how their opponents will play based on their character, the stage, and even what their opponent looks like or what their tag is. Using these expectations against your opponent can be very powerful, and creating expectations for your opponent and then throwing them off is how you outsmart good players. Let's be real for a second. Just about everyone that doesn't play Samus assumes that Samus players are just Metroid nerds that like spamming and staying far away from their opponent. Instead of immediately retreating and charging your shot as soon as the game starts, maybe try being a bit aggressive at first, or bait your opponent into thinking that you're playing aggressive, then punish their approach. Number 11 is get off the ledge. Stage positioning is a critical concept that you must get a firm grasp of in order to take your Samus to the next level. Very often when I'm online, I see Samus' retreat to the edge of the stage as soon as the game starts and just start spamming missiles hoping to look for an opening into dash attack when the opponent gets close. I cannot stress enough that this simply will not work in tournament settings because Samus is simply not a pure zoner like Villager or the Belmonts, and you will very quickly realize as soon as you go up against a good Space Animal or Palutena or something, that playing Samus as a pure zoner is incredibly gimmicky and is not consistent at all. The overall goal of Smash is to knock your opponent off the stage without getting knocked off yourself. Retreating to the very edge of the stage and hoping that your opponent comes at you does very little to accomplish this goal. If you've ever played a game like chess, Go, or even tic-tac-toe, you know that certain areas of the playing field are inherently more valuable than others. Just like in real life where having the high ground can win or lose a battle, occupying or controlling key areas of the stage and avoiding dangerous ones is how you win consistently. There are tons of guides already on this, but generally speaking, you want control of center stage, and you don't want to be right above your opponent. Number 12 is aim not where your opponent is, but where your opponent is going. Anybody who's thrown a football or played Call of Duty or Halo understands this instinctively, but never assume that your opponent is just going to stand in place. You should always be focusing on your opponent's movement and positioning and trying to predict where they will go next. Number 13 is hold your ground. When you have a lead as Samus, keep that lead. This is another pretty obvious one, but when you have a stock advantage, do whatever it takes to tack on percent, even if that means being super lane with bombs, Zairs, and jabs. Samus can easily live to very high percents, and you should always abuse that when you can by looking for safe trades when you have a stock lead and are close to knockout percent. Of course, this only applies when you actually have a lead, so you can't just play super lane the entire game and expect to win against high tier characters. Also, speaking of trading, the next tip is to understand clanking and priority. I'm probably going to make a whole video on this, but here are the general rules of thumb when it comes to priority. When two grounded hitboxes collide and they deal within 9% of each other, both characters go into a clanking animation. If one of the hitboxes does 9% or more than the other, then the stronger one will persist while the opponent's move cancels out. The same rule of 9% applies to projectiles, but the exception of clanking is that aerial moves bypass aerial or grounded moves, so whichever hitbox is bigger pretty much wins. Again, these are all just very general summaries of priority, and it doesn't even cover half of it, but anyway, start studying that. Finally, another very general but very important tip: remember to breathe. I promise if you stay calm throughout the entire match, despite how far ahead your opponent may be or how annoying the matchup is, you will play better just by keeping a cool head, a relaxed grip, and a calm focus. Remember, if you have a stock, you have a chance. Don't let your own body or brain be what holds you back, so avoid playing while in a bad mindset and practice keeping a good mindset. Comebacks and upsets are always possible in fighting games, and they usually happen because the underdog stayed focused while their opponent got complacent. That's all for now. By the way, this is probably going to be one of my last Samus videos for a little bit. I am going to do a little combo compilation kind of thing just for fun, but I do want to start breaking out into a little bit more general Smash mechanics and other characters. Also, I'm starting a Discord server. I'll put the link to that in the description. So if you feel like chatting or you want to ask any questions or anything like that, that's probably the best place to go. Anyway, thanks for watching and peace.